Hello, everybody. What's up, family? This your favorite cousin again, back with episode 19 of Rich Talks. And today we're going to talk about the ego. Yes, is the ego good, the bad? What's its purpose? And we're going to talk about the ego. Should be interesting. First off, Sigmund Freud, the psychologist, he explains the ego as part of our mind that helps us navigate the world by creating a sense of individual identity. However, it often leads us to believe that this identity is fixed and separate from others, which can lead to isolation, competition, and fear. And I believe that's spot on. Our ego is what allows us to be safe. Yet your ego is the same thing that could lead you to be isolated, compete with other people, or be in fear. And you say, well, how does your ego do that? Well, it goes back to the definition of ego. It's the part of our mind that helps us navigate the world by creating a sense of individual identity. You see, we've always been taught that ego was like this big, boastful, grandiose type person. Almost associating ego with narcissism. But that's not necessarily the case, because you can still have ego and still be a quiet, humble person, or a perceived quiet, humble person. So ego is not always this grandiose identity or this grandiose thing that we've associated with all the time. No. Ego is literally just something that's created in order to protect you. And what happens is, a lot of times, we feed into this ego more than we should. We give this ego power. We give this ego that's been placed upon us, or that we've accepted. We give it more power than it should. And we give it more power than it should, that's when it starts to take over. And you don't start making decisions that you should make, or you would be willing to make if you didn't have this ego. Ego can protect you ego can prevent you from getting in the right relationship or accepting the right job, because it's keeping you at a state of homeostasis. A state of homeostasis, a state of comfortability, a state of being safe. So if you travel outside of that state, you're vulnerable. And your body, your soul, or this earth suit doesn't like to be in a vulnerable position. That's why we have the ego, and the ego takes over. Because it doesn't allow you, when you're in your ego, it won't allow you to be in a vulnerable position. See? The ego is comprised of many things that you've seen as a kid, or just actively. You taking it, you made it a part of you, you've absorbed it, and you utilize it. It's like the ego thrives on external validation. It's constantly seeking approval, power, superiority. And it's not just in people who are quiet. I mean, people who are loud where the ego is shown. No, it's everybody who has an ego where they let their ego in the driver's seat. It's imagine the ego is like a security blanket over, or your favorite blanket that protects a child. You see? That's what ego is more so like. It's like this security blanket, or this your favorite blanket that you had as a kid. That's what ego is. And you felt invincible. You felt that peace when you had that blanket. And when they stripped that blanket away, you felt vulnerable. That's what ego is. But imagine if you were able to survive without having that blanket. If someone pulled that blanket from you or stripped that blanket from you, you weren't in a hurt or a weak or vulnerable position. You were in a position where when somebody yanks that blanket from you, you're able to survive and keep moving as if that blanket was never a factor. Ego can be your friend only when you recognize it's there. When you can use it as some sort of energy force, you know? When you're in certain positions that you don't want to be in, you know, like dangerous positions and things of that sort, it's like a facade that you're able to utilize to get you out of certain positions, if that makes sense. I'm speaking about ego being able to be utilized for good. You know, it's almost like you seen Spider-Man, where he has Venom, the one with Tobey Maguire. Venom would be like the ego. Venom would be like the ego, and regular Spider-Man would be, just a regular person. No ego involved. So, should you rely on the ego to, I say, help you out in good situations and things of that sort? I wouldn't necessarily. Because that's still a dangerous weapon. I would just learn how to do such thing without utilizing the ego. Because it can get carried away. Just like Spider-Man and Venom. When you think with your ego head, when you think with your ego, or your ego head, you believe you're superior. You believe you're number one. You believe that the world revolves around you. That's dangerous. It separates you from reality. It separates you from really understanding life, that we are all interconnected. Yes, we are all interconnected. But the ego takes that away. The ego makes it as if only you matter and only you should look out for you. So you may see somebody who may do something selfishly, only protecting themselves and not worrying about the rest of the people. Like, say, for instance, they're doing a group project. One person whose knowledge may be superior to those in the group may have the ego that they are superior to those in the group, that they may not need the people in the group, that they are able to do the work alone. So therefore, they don't put as much energy into this said project with the group as they should. instead of saying, because I am quote unquote superiorly intelligent than those in this group, let me utilize this in order to bring everybody up. Let me utilize this in order to carry the heavy load, or, make up where others may lack. To benefit the group, to move the group forward. But this person, because of the ego, will say, I can do this on my own. So I'm going to take my time and do it the way I want to do it. And if you guys don't want to do it how I want to do it, oh well. You see how dangerous that could be? That could be very dangerous. You see how that ego has just taken over? You see how that ego has just taken over? And now it's creating an unbalance into this dynamic of a team. Because one person believes that they're intelligently superior, therefore that everybody else should be on their own timing, instead of this person taking their gifts, skills, and talents and bringing it to the team and letting the team utilize that to the team's benefit. The reason why I brought that example up is because briefly someone was in my life who has went through that. And when they told me, I kind of took a step back and looked at them differently, because I was like, your ego is too much. This person had a group project with somebody, with a group of people, and they didn't put in as much work as they could have because they were intelligently superior to those in the group. So what happened? This person didn't mind being late for the project. Matter of fact, they were late when it was time to present the project. And they presented their portion of the project, or a whole different project, or the same project on their own, while their team had already done the project because they were on time. Like I said, this person was late. So that's strike two. Your ego was so big that you didn't humble yourself enough in order to what? Be on time for your team. Not for you, for your team. Strike one. Strike two. You didn't care enough, to help your team out with presenting. You presented your own. And the ego about it, the way about it, was not out of sadness or guilt or shame. It was out of ego. You see? So when I heard that story, I said, ego. But unlike a lot of people, when they may see ego or something, I'm more observant. I'm more patient. So when I see something like that, my first instinct is, what is this person hiding or, trying to cover up? Because ultimately, that's what the ego is. It's trying to cover up something. It's trying to, protect something. And there can be a whole host of things. Being heavily criticized, not being good enough, not being pretty enough, not being handsome enough, not being tall enough, not being accepted. So we create these personas, or these personas get created in order to protect our inner child from being hurt. So if you are scared of being judged that you're not intelligent, you're going to have this super persona that you're super intelligent, that you're super smart, and that you're going to lead with that. And now you've lost sight of who you are. And now you're leading with this whole ego of, you're super intelligent. To protect what? The inner child of being vulnerable. This is truth. When you have this ego, what people fail to forget is that when you have this ego, you're constantly having to prove yourself over and over and over and over. That's the dangerous thing about an ego. Instead of just what? instead of just accepting yourself in totality, we let the ego run. And because now we've let the ego run, it is now dictating our life. Instead of us dictating our life, the ego is dictating our life. Now we're making decisions based off of our ego, more so than actual decisions that we need to make or want to make, that we know is directly going to help improve or benefit our life. So imagine somebody had an ego, or imagine somebody had this insecurity of not being handsome enough. So they had this ego of being more than, a playboy or something like of that sort. And the only women he messed with were women who were of, top model status. But he didn't find any fulfillment in these relationships, no. But the only fulfillment that he got was of those around him congratulating him, or those around him giving him props for being with these models. Like I said, does he really enjoy them? No. Can he have conversations with them? No. Does he like them? No. But he likes the satisfaction that he receives from those around him for being with these people, these models. So you see how his whole life is being dictated based off his ego of who he's dating. And that leads more into, from who you're dating, now this leads into what you drive. The car that you drive now is not for you. The car that you're driving now is for what? The ego. For everybody else. The work that you do. It's for ego. You really want to work with kids, but you're a lawyer, because it looks good. Ego. I feel it's a certain trigger that happens when you feel that ego come upon. And right before you allow that ego to take hold, that's the point in time where you say, what's going on? Why am I feeling triggered? Why do I need this safety blanket over me? This said safety blanket, this said. And the safety blanket is what? The ego. A lot of that comes with shadow work and meditation. It's not easy, but it's doable if you want to find the answers, if you want to do better for yourself. The answers are there. And on the flip side, a girl who might have had some insecurities about whatever the case may be, physical insecurities as she was growing up. So the guys that she chooses puts a Band-Aid. Well, those insecurities have built the ego. She's built this ego of, maybe she got picked on because she wasn't as beautiful as all the other girls, or as full as all the other girls. So now she's built this persona of being this, what we call them now. What do they call themselves? Boss bitch. This boss bitch thing is nothing but a ego. The ego to cover up the little girl that was inadequate, the little girl that might have been broke, the little girl that might not have been rich. Well, same thing as broke. The little girl that might not have had the attention that she desired, or she felt like she needed, or the certain amount of healthy attention that a young girl is required to have in order for her to start growing, Because we all somewhat need attention in order for us to really realize who we are, in order for us to start growing. It's just what it is. Just like a flower needs attention from the sun in order to grow, it's the same thing. Positive attention does wonders for people. It allows them to realize their full potential, or at least allows them to realize their potential. Now, if she never had that attention, she's demanding that attention through what? Her ego. Not through something righteous, but through her ego. So now she's this boss bitch. That's where the whole boss bitch comes from. It's just a hurt girl. That's all it is. Just as the player. It's just a hurt boy. That's all it is. They're just hurt. So they've created this ego, they've created this mask that they wear in order for them to never end up in that position again. Is it healthy? No. It's not healthy. It can only be healthy if you start seeing, okay, this is what I need to do, this. Or this is why I want to do this. Because of this. Now you start eliminating the parts of that's ego, and you keep the parts that's you. So instead of getting all this, let's say for the female, instead of her getting all these lashes and makeup and bags and all this to cover up, maybe she just turns around and loves herself more. Maybe she turns around and has positive words of affirmation for herself. Maybe she turns around and forgives the people who were supposed to give her attention that did it. Maybe her mother, her father, that didn't give her the adequate attention needed. Maybe she forgives herself for being so hard on herself that she should be some type of way, and fully embraces and accepts herself. You see, that's the step that people should take or go towards before they accept the ego. Because now this is healthy. Now they're able to do what? Change things for the better. Because they're coming to grips with reality. See, your ego separates you from reality. Again, the ego is what allows you to say you're superior. It isolates you. Because of what? Fear. Inadequacy. See? Inadequate that you're not pretty enough, so you create this ego facade that you are a bad bitch. Or for men, you create this egoic facade that you are a player. Why? To protect that inner child that was neglected, or to protect that inner child that was harmed. You didn't get attention from the females that you wanted, or the girl that you liked played you. Or your mom didn't call you handsome enough, or your dad didn't give you enough game, so you went out there and got, hoodwinked and bamboozled by the first girl that you actually liked. But she didn't really like you. She played you. So now you say, I'm never going to get played again. I'm going to be the player. So now what happens? You become this facade. You become this player. That's not really you. But it's this mask. It's the facade. It's this ego that you have embraced to protect that inner child that got hurt. So now you separate yourself from the one thing that you truly do want. What? Love. Again, you're separating yourself from the one thing that you truly do want. Love. Why? Because of that ego. Because you're scared. You protected that inner child so much with so much buffer that it's creating an ego. And this ego that has been created is now separating you from reality of what you really need to do or who you really need to be in order to acquire what you want. Love. The same thing with the boss bitch. Same thing with the independent woman. When you say, how is that? The same thing with the independent woman. Because she was probably in a position where she got hurt or someone took advantage of her financially due to her not being wise enough in a situation, or being gullible, or being in a position where nobody was able or wanted to even take on her as a responsibility. Maybe all of her friends had a man that was able to pay for everything for her, or wanted to pay for everything for her, or growing up, all her friends had the man. So instead of her saying, I want that for myself. Let me put myself in a position to where I'm presentable, or people want to come up to me and give me those offers of paying all my bills. You know, instead of her approaching the situation with that mindset, what does she do? She approaches the mindset of, I'm not even going to try. And by her not trying, it comes out as the way of what? I'm independent. I don't need no man. So instead of her even making herself vulnerable in order for her to receive what she wants, in order to making herself vulnerable for her to look at herself in the mirror and say, this is what needs to change. This is what I need to implement. And I put up the facade of the ego that I'm independent. I don't need nobody. She's going to truly attract and receive what she truly wants. Like I say, personally, me, I see beyond the mask of the ego. So when I see people with the ego, I'm quickly able to see they're covering something up. What is it? So don't be people who have this ego. I don't need nobody. I'm a player. I'm a Mac. You know what I'm saying? I can do it all by myself. All this is ego talking. Unless this is who you truly are. A lot of times, people have not graduated to that level for that to be truly them in a positive and healthy manner. And that's just the label that they give themselves. That is a part of them. They are not it. See, that's the big difference. You can utilize the essence of being a quote-unquote boss bitch or a player or these things. You can utilize that essence. You can utilize the essence because that's what's going to help you grow into the person that you know that you may want to be. You can utilize the essence. But to become this person, to become this, to fully become and allow the venom in or become venom, that's the ego. And so, okay, so you say, well, how does the player able to utilize that but not be that? Okay, I'll tell you how. So instead of him playing all these girls, just giving these girls to run around and lying and manipulating and all this, he may take aspects like a good gift of gab or the ability to have conversation or the ability to just dress nice. And his intentions are not to manipulate or get over. His intentions are, I'm going to utilize this to help me when I'm in those situations. You know, I'm going to utilize these attributes. So when I'm in these situations, it magnifies who I am. It adds more personality to who I am. It adds more flavor. You know, it's the flavor packet in the ramen noodles. That's what that is. When you utilize it to your benefit, not become it, not let it run you. And I said, ego is a tricky thing. Be careful. There's ways you can dance around it and still keep your sanity. Still keep who you are and grow. There's ways around it. But people are not willing to go to that extent. Why? Because now they have to go through the depths of the hurt and sort through the hurt and take accountability. And we already know a lot of people are not willing to do that. So ego, is it a bad thing? I would say 95%, yeah. It can be utilized for good. But like I always say, nothing on this earth is neither just strictly good or strictly bad. Like I said, sometimes that ego is what's going to wake you up to realize who you are, what you really want. And sometimes the ego has overtaken and is not going to allow you to see what you truly want. You know? Just like that player and that boss bitch. They've created these facades and these identities of, these are these people. But now, remember when we said it puts you in isolation. It doesn't allow you to remind yourself that we're all interconnected. That we all need what? Such things as what? Love. So now because you put yourself in this position of you don't need nobody, how can you exchange love, give out more love? How can you do that? Well, you don't need nobody. So how is the earth supposed to spin and revolve if you don't need nobody? Just saying. Or you don't help. Or you don't care. That's the biggest thing, you don't care. Because the player don't care about those girls' feelings. Or even the female player don't care about those guys' feelings. Just the same way the boss bitch is about her bag. Hey, I had to break it down for my people in order for them to really realize on certain levels. I'm like the young black Carl Young out here. Anyway, this your favorite cousin. Episode 19. We're talking about ego. I hope this helps somebody today. Remember, ego can really hold you back from what you want. So if you really want change, you have to look in the mirror and understand why you have developed this ego and what is it protecting yourself from. Remember episode 19? This your favorite cousin, Rich. Y'all be safe. Love and blessings.